Welcome to another New Lens Book Club. This week we're going to talk about one of my favorite books, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Brave New World is a terrifying personification of what Aldous Huxley saw uh, the government in his world was leading to at the time, and just as well a scary prediction of and an accurate representation of how things continue to go through society. The book starts off talking about how his utopian society is built on this genetic engineering where people are specifically bred to be in specific classes. So there are like people who are given certain traits and all look a specific way to be able to do these specific things in order to group them into areas and treat them certain ways. Um, and the protagonist happens to be this scientist who was in this higher class, but he ended up being like a misfit in his cultural and social society by having the traits of somebody who was in a lower class than him. So he like walks around with a lot of just like resentment towards how people treat him because he's supposed to and he sees himself as like this very high up deserving person, and it's like I'm here, I'm with these people, why are they not treating me correctly, uh just because he looks and is a certain way. um and it's just fascinating, and I'm curious to know if Aldous Huxley saw himself maybe like that, just because he is such an interesting character. um and I think it was a good idea to use genetics as like a way to communicate things that don't necessarily need, right, such an extreme genetic like variation. It's just as much as it is like similar to like Gattaca or I don't know, like any of the other, yeah, like 1984 even. It's sort of like a parallel with that. Um, where it's just societies are always going to be in a tough spot, and individuals working through societies are going to be in a tough spot. And we need like these extreme like personifications to be able to communicate uh topics that might not seem so right in our face. uh so by using like this pathway of saying like there's entire groups of people who are literally made in a laboratory to look and be a certain way to carry out certain tasks and be in a certain sect of society is sort of what actually happens. And it's not, you don't need the genetic like laboratory stuff to do it. It's kind of manufactured through um like the gerrymandering type stuff that happens, and sectioning off people and having certain cultural people doing certain jobs, like jobs that other people don't want to do, that kind of thing. Like it's really interesting how it shows like even back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that things were headed in that direction where it is like societal and cultural control and like making sure that people stay within bounds, and when people are like out of their bounds they are like sort of ostracized. um Now whether that happens in every case, who knows? And like this protagonist has to like go on this journey to sort of discover himself, where it's like he like has to keep proving to his peers in society like that he is worth this and that he is supposed to be there, and he is just like, I don't know, begging for the approval of everybody around him, it seems. And ultimately it like ends up hurting him in the end because he is like chasing like this dragon, this dream, like something so far extreme that the only course of action was to I guess, exile him in the end, uh, which happens to probably a lot of, you know, revolutionary speakers, things like that. Um, so it is scary. It's a really good book. With that being said, uh, there's like so much about like control, right, and pleasure. There's this whole scene where they like go to this bar and like it's this whole sensory thing where they're like given these visions like through these drugs, uh, that just like I don't know, it's like the most in depth like hearing and smells that you could get. Like it's just like this special sensory club, and it goes to basically talk about like control through pleasure, right? And that's not like the only example throughout the book. They also, well, the main drug that they use is something called soma, which they're not really clear on what it is. Uh, so it's could be some sort of psychedelic, something like that. But they give like these rations out to lower classes and upper classes for that matter. But like they all get like different rations, and they're all like sectioned off in different housing units. It's really really strange. Um, there's also like this whole body thing where like they like are all okay with, I don't know, being very liberal, where it's like everybody is like into free love, and that's just like expected in the society. Where like the odd thing is uh to be like monogamous and be deeper with a partner, where like the normal thing is to just like be like, yeah, everybody is loving and deserving, and we're all supposed to be doing this. Which is just fascinating, right? Especially for back in the day, that's like such a radical idea. Where now, you know, the opposite is probably for a lot of people more radical. Um, and we'll see if it continues to go in that direction, right? But like, who knows? Um, just like a really like niche, fascinating thing that I don't think, I don't know. He didn't need to put it in there necessarily, but it turns out like maybe that was just something he noticed back then even. Uh, so it's kind of wild. It's kind of wild that all these things are just like existing. Even like some of the drone technologies that we have now, like I felt like a lot of the transportation that was described was like a drone. It was like sort of like a helicopter, but it wasn't. It was definitely more akin to like what our drones are looking like. Um, so who knows? I need to read was it Gateway of Perception by Aldous Huxley, because he has such an interesting mind. It it baffles me. It actually baffles me how just brilliant he was, because this book just stands up to the test of time for sure. Yeah, I think that is probably it. I don't think I have anything left to say. That was like so good. I just wanted to like share that little piece because I really enjoyed reading this book, and it really is worth everybody's time to read. Um, I think it's probably one of the best like sci-fi type books I've read. Um, very digestible, very real. Will have you jumping out of your seat. Uh, but I guess actually I should talk about the like ending piece too, because he just like it, the way he just like disrupts society is like by bringing in interestingly enough, someone from an extremely different culture, and someone from an extremely different background. Somebody from like a tribe who used to be a part of the society, and like everybody wanted to see them. They treated this person like a circus act. It was really strange. I, the ending, I would love to honestly know your thoughts on, if you've read it. It's like I wasn't sure how I felt about it. Um, I would have hoped that things would have been like taken more seriously, but like, oh man, do I think people would act differently if they saw like something crazy like that, where it was something so out of normal that people just like pulled out their cameras and and laughed because that's what they do, right? Just go straight onto the internet and TikTok. It's just like, oh my god, look at this thing. Like, look at this weird thing. Like, look at how this person is. Uh, it's actually ridiculous. That it's just like, oh, because they were just like, look at this person's skin and like how it's not smooth and stuff. Because everybody in the modern society has smooth skin because they all use like special creams and lotions and look like they're 20 until they're 60 when they all just drop dead. And it's like, this is not how we used to do things in the old world. Like we used to make clothes with wool and we'd patch it up instead of just like throwing things out and being wasteful. uh and now, like, when we see people like that, we a lot of people do just like stare and point and laugh from, I don't know, just it being different. And it's like, wow, like it's just because our modern society wants us to like be going so fast and doing all these things. Like, I guess it really was just a call to action to be like, hey, like, these people are not freaks. Like, this is who we are, and like your modern society is blinding you, uh, and making you think that your way is the correct way, and a lot of it isn't. When it's like, not when you are being controlled by powers that be that make you stuck within cultural and socioeconomic confines, that just like give you these pleasure tools to distract yourselves, right? TV, drugs, circus, shows, clubs, whatever it is. Um, I would imagine Aldous Huxley was depressed at some point in his life, like highly depressed, because of that. I mean, what a dim look at society. And do I necessarily think he's wrong? No. Uh, like it's just so interesting, man. I wonder what he would say if he was alive today, for sure. He he would have a lot to say, probably enough for a Brave New World too. Um, Also find it fascinating that Marvel named it Brave New World. Their movie, I mean. I don't know. I think that's really disrespectful. Uh, not when something like this exists. They shouldn't have used that name. Uh, just I don't know. That's all for now. I'll see you next time.